Fresh off the Christmas Day celebration, Christmas sales, clearance swag, or whatever you want to call it, we are back live on In My Own Words, the podcast, Touchdown Alabama magazine. Stephen M. Smith returning from the break. Got a chance to, in the last segment, talk about Jalen Hurd. Me laying out, or yours truly laying out, 3 reasons as to why Alabama will win a national championship this season with Jalen Hurd at quarterback. But now we transition to something that, as I stated earlier, ladies and gentlemen, we would get into, and that's breaking down the top 4 pass rushers, the top 4 disruptors, the top 4 edge rushers going into the college football playoff in terms of Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, and the Oklahoma Sooners. Starting off with number 1, as both semifinal games between Alabama, Clemson, the Sugar Bowl, Oklahoma, Georgia, the Rose Bowl, kicking off on January 1st to start the new year. Number 1 pass rusher on the docket to look out for in this playoff is Clemson defensive end Clelin Ferrell. This guy is a top draft pick for the NFL. Big guy at 6'5", 260 pounds, but he explodes on the edge. Clelin Ferrell this season, 17 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, 7 quarterback hurries, and he is 3rd on the team in total tackles with 62. The 17 tackles for loss and 8.5 sacks, both team highs. Clelin Ferrell anchors a defense that gives up 12.8 points a game, and that's got 44 sacks, among the tops in the nation. This man has a motor that does not stop running. He gets after the quarterback. He disrupts the timing of offenses, just knows how to make plays. And when your defensive coordinator is Brent Venables, he's going to put you in situations, whether you're ripping off the edge, swimming off the edge, bomb rushing, just creating different ways to get to the quarterback, affect the passing lane, and put the opposing defense, or put the offense you're faced, behind the down and distance on a consistent basis. So number 1, biggest pass rusher in this game, or in this playoff, Clelin Ferrell, defensive end, Clemson Tigers. At number 2, I look at the defensive lineman from the Oklahoma Sooners by the name of Akbania Okoronkwo, the defensive end from the Oklahoma Sooners. He's my number 2 guy. Now, when you look at Oklahoma, this is more so an offensive-minded team, right? When you talk Baker Mayfield, Heisman-winning quarterback, completed 71% of his throws, 4,330 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Rodney Anderson, Trey Sermon, Mark Andrews at tight end, C.D. Lamb, and Marquise Hollywood Brown, the wide receivers. Lincoln Riley, your head coach and offensive guru. You look at Oklahoma as an offensive-minded team, in which you should. It's the Big 12. Big 12 known for offense. Big 12 known for big-armed quarterbacks, high-octane offenses, teams putting up stats. Defensively, the Sooners are the team in this playoff that gives up the most points per game, 25. Oklahoma giving up 25 points per game. But Okoronkwo, 17.5 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, 6 quarterback hurries, and he's 2nd on the team in total tackles with 71. The Sooners, 24 sacks as a team, but Okoronkwo, the guy that can get to the quarterback, has a very fast, explosive first step. Upon the snap of the ball, he's creating havoc. And in terms of this game against Georgia, he's got to be the one getting the Jake Fromm, disrupting the timing on offense, making life difficult for the three-headed monster in the backfield that is Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, and DeAndre Swift, and not allowing the offensive game planning for Jim Chaney to go smoothly. That's the job for Okoronkwo. Because I look at Jake Fromm at quarterback, 21 touchdowns to 5 picks. Does a great job throwing those out routes. I mentioned on the podcast about Jalen Hurd how Fromm has not had his freshman-type game yet. The one where he's possibly throwing 2 to 3, maybe 4 interceptions, and everything goes wrong for him. This could be the game, seeing how Okoronkwo fast off the edge. But then again, you never know. However, he is the number 2 pass rusher I'm putting down. A guy that can explode off the edge and make huge plays in terms of affecting, getting to the quarterback, not making the passer feel comfortable in the pocket, playing pitch and catch with wide receivers. Okoronkwo number 2. The number 3 guy I have is the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, 2017 Butkus Award winner, and unanimous All-American, none other than linebacker Raekwon Smith of Georgia. Now, I could have chosen Lorenzo Carter or David Bellamy or Carter, Bellamy. I could have chosen any of those guys. All of those guys are big-time playmakers. Jonathan Ledbetter, he's also in that group. But I chose Raekwon Smith because of his sideline-to-sideline quickness. Tremendous lateral quickness for a linebacker. And I go back to 2009 for just a moment. Kirby Smart, before he was the head coach at Georgia, he was the defensive coordinator for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Started off in 2007 as a graduate assistant, then grew from grad assistant to defensive back coach and then defensive coordinator. So 2009, Kirby Smart, the defensive coordinator at Alabama. He has a linebacker by the name of Rolando McClain. Did not recruit Rolando McClain. That was, of course, Mike Shula. But Kirby Smart had a guy that was highly intelligent, that could go sideline to sideline, that played with tremendous instincts, had a lot of those leadership qualities on the field. Rolando McClain, the 2009 season, I believe he led the team with 104 tackles, like 14 and a half tackles for loss, something like that. Had in between 4 and 6 sacks, just an absolute dog on the field. And that's what Raekwon Smith brings Georgia in Kirby's second year as a head coach, an absolute dog on the field. Smith, 10 and a half tackles for loss, 5 and a half sacks, 8 quarterback hurries, leads the team in tackles with 113, played out of his mind in the SEC championship game against Auburn. He was kind of a non-factor in the first matchup at Jordan-Hare. Jarrett Stidham had a field day. Kerryon Johnson running through the teeth of that defense. But at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, conference title, all you heard was Raekwon Smith. It's the only name you heard because he was affecting plays left and right where that Auburn offense is concerned. He is number 3, in my opinion, in terms of affecting Baker Mayfield. We talked about Okoronkwo trying to get to Jake Fromm. Raekwon Smith got to get to Baker Mayfield. Very elusive. I don't understand why so many people keep comparing Baker Mayfield to Russell Wilson. Stop that. Russell Wilson actually a big-time athlete. Russell Wilson actually a guy that when he was drafted into the NFL was drafted with high maturity. I mean, Wilson was like a 20-year-old in a 30, 40-year-old's mindset. I mean, Seattle just gave him the keys to the car because they felt like they drafted a 30-year vet because of how Russell Wilson carried himself. Now, I'm not saying Baker Mayfield can't reach that plateau. I'm just saying for all quarterbacks that come in, under 6 feet, everybody tries to equate them to Russell Wilson, and I don't think it's fair. Russell Wilson is a darn good athlete. This is a guy that's actually running a 4.5, 4.6, 4.4. Baker Mayfield, we don't know what his 40 time is. Now, he can create. He can make some plays. Once again, this year's Heisman Trophy winner. But the biggest thing for Raekwon Smith, getting in the passing lane, knocking balls down, negate the yards after catch for these Oklahoma receivers. And as always, just finding ways to make the quarterback uncomfortable. Raekwon Smith is number 3. And this is for a Georgia defense that is giving up 13.2 points per game and a defense that has 26 sacks on the season. Last but not least, the number 4 top pass rusher I'm breaking down in this segment, Alabama's Raekwon Davis, sophomore defensive end out of Meridian, Mississippi. Here's a guy that Nick Saban talked about plays with the type of intensity, motor, urgency that he wants to see all of his defensive linemen play with. And this is no knock on Deron Payne or Deshaun Hand or Isaiah Buggs or Joshua Frazier, but when you bring up Raekwon Davis, who is 6'8", 306 pounds, just a giant sequoia, Nick Saban's like, this cat right here gets it. This cat right here knows how urgent this stuff is. And in this college football playoff, when you're going against Clemson, trying to slow down Kelly Bryant, Travis Etienne, Tavian Feaster, Adam Choice, and the playmakers that be the Clemson Tigers, you are going to need Raekwon Davis on his P's and Q's, collapsing the pocket, getting that push, moving the Clemson offensive line, who's pretty good, by the way, moving that Clemson offensive line off the football. I revert back to not just the Auburn game, but also the Mississippi State game and the LSU game from this season. Alabama's defensive front had a difficult time moving offenses off the ball, and it made it difficult on the linebackers to really make tackles. I understand we look at Keith Holcomb at times and like to say, well, he struggled, didn't play well against Mississippi State, wasn't quite ready for that type of a moment as the starting linebacker. But you have to also look at the factors that be Alabama's defensive line. If it gets more of a push up front, maybe Keith Holcomb has a better performance. If they get more of a push at the point of attack, maybe Keith Holcomb's able to stick his nose in there and make plays. I'm just saying. Alabama defensive line has to generate, create a push, collapse the pocket, let Kelly Bryant feel your presence. Let Kelly Bryant know that you're in the area code and you're going to be there all game long. It's the gist for Raekwon Davis, who's got 7 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks to lead the team, 2 quarterback hurries, and he's second on the team in total tackles with 59. Alabama defense giving up the least amount of points of the 4, 11.5 points per game, as a team 31 sacks. 11.5 points per game, 31 sacks, where this defense is concerned, headlined by the pass rusher Raekwon Davis. So going through these top 4 pass rushers again that I have listed: Clemson defensive end, Cleveland Farrell. Oklahoma Sooners defensive end, Akbania Okoronkwo. Georgia Bulldogs linebacker, Raekwon Smith. University of Alabama defensive end, Raekwon Davis. And all 4 of these guys will be on display in the playoff. Which 2 impose their will and get to the championship game, and ultimately which one ends up winning a national championship remains to be seen. But those are the 4 pass rushers in this game or in this playoff that will have a lot of say upon the new year, January 1st, 2018, as it rolls into the bend. We take a final break here on In My Own Words, the podcast, Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Stephen M. Smith. Show is also brought to you by the guys at Bama Sports Radio, fresh off the Christmas swag. Really enjoyed my Christmas this year. Got a chance to spend some time with my nephew. That little boy has a strong grip. Could be Alabama's next starting quarterback in 2038. Not sure, but speaking it on him right now. Could be. Love that kid. Fresh off the Christmas swag. Coming up on the other side of the break, ladies and gentlemen, we dove out the top 5 most critical players for Alabama in terms of facing Clemson. Crimson Tide has made landfall in Louisiana. Team is officially in the Big Easy. Nick Saban has made its press conference. The offensive guys and defensive guys will speak in the following days, but we lay out the 5 most critical players for the Crimson Tide in terms of facing the Tigers of Clemson. All of this coming up on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere, folks. You're listening to In My Own Words, and we'll be back. It's your boy, Stephen M. Smith, host of In My Own Words, the podcast. If you are a fan of this show, then I encourage you to subscribe to the Touchdown Alabama Magazine YouTube channel. Also follow the brand on Facebook, Twitter, and other forms of social media as we continue to bring you the best in Alabama football and Crimson Tide athletics.